Welcome to Game of Roses. This is PaceCase.
This is BachelorClues, and just because Joan Vassos' inaugural season of the Golden Bachelorette is over doesn't mean the lessons that we learn are over. Today, we're going to be going through the top 10 most important takeaways from Joan Vassos' season, how that may affect the franchise moving forward, what we thought about them, and at the end of this episode, we're going to be giving out our season-long awards, our MVP of the season, our heirs of the season, plays of the season, creatures of the season, face plays of the season, and
bystanders of the season.
Bystanders of the season.
Errors.
And
yes.
errors. Yeah, all of it. All of these things will be delivered by the end of this episode. So please stick around till the end of it. PaceCase, what are your overall thoughts on Golden Bachelorette Season 1 before we begin this list?
Golden Bachelorette Season 1. I wish more people had seen the show.
Me too.
I would say it was a very well-made season. There's certainly some things I would do differently. I would have 1,000 times more beds, for instance.
Yep.
And just some various things. I would have kept Jack in way longer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have cast the 2 restraining order people out of 24, 25.
Yeah.
But overall, I really personally enjoyed the season.
I did too.
And I hope the franchise continues. I think ageism is like such a huge thing. And like most people are not 25. I'm learning as I age. There's a lot more ages out there.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot more ages. I agree with you. I like this season very much. And I do also wish more people would have seen it. I think the Golden addition to this franchise has done some interesting things. One of the most interesting things I think of Golden is they're only an hour and a half long. They're not doing 2-hour episodes. Do you prefer that or no? You like it? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it for Golden. Like I don't like it in the main game.
It keeps it tight. I think I also like that there's a smaller cast. And I think that's like part of it. So that you actually get to know the people. Yeah. As opposed to just like 10 night one players, you know? We don't need that.
I don't know. I kind of like that. I like the brutality.
You like the night one slaughter.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I love it, in fact.
You're like, actually, that's my favorite part of the Hunger Games.
It's like, if you didn't come to play, get out of here. Go home. All right, PaceCase, shall we get into this? Our top 10?
Let's go.
All right, the number 10 takeaway from Joan Vassos' first season of the Golden Bachelorette is Joan hit 100,000 followers on Instagram. Now, we have been charting this entire season, and basically every season we've been doing this podcast, we follow the ups and downs of all the different players on Instagram and now TikTok as well, who's getting the big numbers. And we really didn't think that, or at least I didn't think, she was going to hit 100K.
Correction. I expertly guessed. Of course, Joan Vassos is going to hit 100K. She's a parasocial queen.
Okay, fair enough. My apologies.
Half of Gore.
Yes, 1/2 of Gore. 50% of us thought she would not reach 100,000. She did do that. Now, 100,000 is, I think, for Golden, a very good mark. For the regular game, a lead getting only 100,000 would be abysmal. But for Golden,
disgusting.
I think it's pretty good. And it does give me some hope that, you know, we just concluded Jen Tran's season, for example. None of the guys got to 100,000 on that season. It was very bad, very disappointing.
I wonder why.
Well, I think the fourth
usually
audience,
a ring winner. Like.
Yeah, exactly. There were some problems with some of the late game players, but it also is just kind of indicative of a waning audience, at least in terms of that specific show. Because if you go back to like Hannah Brown's season, dudes came out of that show with millions of Instagram followers. I'm talking about obviously Tyler Cameron,
that was the peak.
Pilot Pete had
Colton.
1 million. So it was, you know, we're in a different time now, and it, I don't know, to me was a good thing that she had 100K. It's like there is still some audience out there that's willing to follow these players, even Golden players,
and engage. Like there might be an audience, but are they engaging with the players? Are they following them after? It's a good estimation of what an impact the show is having. And now you see shows like Love Island USA season 6. It's not just because fewer people are engaging with social media, reality stars in general. It's there are people out there willing to do it.
Yeah,
and
it
tends to signify a younger audience too, which is what you need.
Totally. I mean, you've got Leah Kateb on Love Island getting over 3 million Instagram followers, eclipsing anybody ever in the history of Bachelor. And you
the people's
see
princess.
Well, whatever she is, I love watching her. But you really do see that audience is still there. There is still a social media audience that associates itself with reality TV. And for whatever reason, I mean, I know the reason, The Bachelor doesn't engage that same type of audience. And it's because The Bachelor has a kind of overt negative opinion of social media and its relation to the product they're making.
Imagine if Maria Georges had gone on Love Island.
I'm imagining it now. That would be amazing.
She should. Possible? If she can.
Is it possible? It's possible.
I mean, they've never cast a Bachelor person, I don't think, but
she could do it 2 years after Grazie's final season or final episode aired. So not this coming February, but the next one. I think she could be, it could be possible for her to do that. We'll see.
I would like to see that.
Let's move on. Our number 9 takeaway from this season is the night one curveball. If you don't remember this, they brought all of the guys into a room, wheeled out a TV, and showed videos to all of the guys from their family members, kids, friends, moms. Was there a mom?
Grandkids.
Yeah, it was mainly kids and grandkids.
And it was essentially to extract tier play and for TRR-ness from all of these players. And it did. Yeah,
it was highly effective.
I think in general, we're seeing the golden seasons come off way more for TRR. You're having way more intense PTCs. Like, for instance, which allow you to have things like something we'll get to later, some Chock play from the season. But I like incorporating the families more, incorporating people's like outer support system. You get to know something more about them and like the style of their grandkids or whatever.
I mean, there's a fundamental difference psychologically in the player base as well, though, that makes this work for Golden. And I don't think it would work in a, whatever you want to call it, the regular Bachelor and Bachelorette, because for these Golden players, their careers, their lives are done pretty much. And whether they're retired or not, they're not going to switch their careers at age 68. You know what I mean? Even if they're still working, they are who they are. They're cooked. Their life has been lived. And whether their PTC is a divorce or a death, like that has all happened. And so when you show them these sentimental videos from their children and their family members, it's going to get them. And it works. In the traditional Bachelor and Bachelorette, everybody's way younger. Their whole lives are ahead of them. They are looking at this show as a springboard into a potential career as an influencer or reality star or whatever the case may be. And so I don't think it would have the same impact if you showed like videos from their parents or something being like, we hope you have a good time and find love.
Well, I want to ask something, but I'm like, I think the parents can have that type of an impact. Maybe not in the night one, but if you have, if they're isolated, no phones, no support system, if you get like, if you make it to a certain round, these people get a message from their family.
Yeah.
I think that has an impact. You see it on, I'll just say, you see it on Love Island.
Okay.
And people lose their shit.
But that's at like the end of the season almost.
They used to bring the parents.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I just feel like the older the player, the more impact something like that will have, because that person means a lot more to them. They've spent 10 years of their life raising this kid.
Right.
In Pascal's case, I mean, how old was his son and daughter? They were like 20 something.
Gotta be up there.
At any rate, let's move on. Our number 8.
Our number 8 most important takeaway from Joan Vassos' season was forced nudity. This is something that we did not see on The Golden Bachelor as much. Clues went through and checked out what those group date activities were. But we did have this episode where and it's something we see in the regular Bachelorette. You'll never forget that episode as well. Brown. But we had golden Chippendales dancers teach everyone how to dance, and then they all did these performances that were extraordinary and really left an impression. Yeah,
the closest thing to this in the Golden Bachelor season was they did a group date where they all had to pose for romance cover photo shoot type thing. This was something else totally. These dudes were basically in G-strings, almost completely naked. And you even got at the Men Tell All, Mark Anderson saying he didn't want to do this until he found out it was for cancer. And then you couldn't keep him off the stage. Now, that's another component of this. Yeah, he's like, I'll do anything for cancer. If you want me to kill someone for cancer, I will do it. One of if you want me to kill for cancer. Mark Anderson, the silent killer. They bring these guys out and they say, we're going to do this striptease. You have to basically show your genitals and rub them in Joan's face, all for cancer research, of course. And they're very, in my opinion, opaque, the opposite of transparent about how much money was donated to what charity, how any of this was happening. When they said you're doing this for
secret cancer donations by the show.
It implies that they were charging ticket price to come to watch that event. But they weren't. Anytime you do a Bachelor group date.
But they were audience member. Yeah.
Yes. But that audience was, you just go to a website and sign up and say, I want to go to this group date that's being shot on this day. That's how they do all those group dates.
You only pay with your time.
Yeah. So I don't know how they got any money. I don't know what this donation was. I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm just saying they never told us in the document how much money it was or to what charity it was going. Therefore, I must conclude.
And they didn't show us Mark protesting.
Yes, exactly. They didn't show that at all. That could have been later. But nonetheless, whether they gave money to an actual cancer charity or they just made all that up, we did see these guys forced to do nudity, which they did not do for the women, but they will do it for the dudes. I think that this has set a precedent, and I think you will see this same type of date of forced nudity for the guys every season of Golden Bachelorette.
I hope they get rid of it.
Interesting. I don't know.
I
hope they amp it up. I hope it's full nudity next time.
Full nudity.
Yeah.
She's like, no beds, but let me see.
Mark Anderson's like, when they told me I had to get into a G-string, I was like, no way. But when they said full nudity, I was like, you can't keep me off that stage.
You can't keep that thong out of my prying claw.
My daughter, Kelsey Anderson, needs to see me nude. This is the best way to get that done. Check it out, Joey. All right, let's move on. Our seventh highest ranked top 10 takeaway from this season was none other than a man named Chock Chaplin, not the Charles you were thinking of. He turned in a season that is something we have never seen, obviously in the Golden franchise, this being the inaugural Golden Bachelorette season. But really, I don't think I've ever seen a player quite like him in any season of any of the games of this franchise. We saw him leave because his mother died and then return before that rose ceremony concluded. So within the span of 2 to 3 days, he left to handle his mother's death, came back, and obviously I believe he had a one-on-one date rose already that week. So he was safe in the rose ceremony. But we saw that. We saw the tree planting for his mom during his meeting of the family. All that had to be orchestrated by him and his friends and his family. We saw him level 4 before anybody else. And he just was, and obviously was the ring winner. It was a wild season of play that he turned in, doing some things that were really, in my opinion, pushing the envelope. Like he was doing, again, like a guy coming back into the game, the tree thing. We've never seen anything like that from any player, regardless of age.
He extracted a blessing from the father of his late fiance on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, Chock in charge this season should have been called.
Charles Chock in charge. His real name is Charles Chaplin.
Chock and yeah. But it's Chock in charge.
Charles Chaplin. Call me Chock. This is Chock's tree. My mother's buried beneath it. That's not true. It just seemed true.
That's not true.
I'm Chock. I mean, that means I'm coming back.
Huh? Oh, they didn't scatter something?
Scatter what? What?
They didn't scatter the mom in that
Scatter
ceremony.
the mom?
It was just...
What are you talking? Oh, her ashes, you mean? I was like, what the hell are you talking about? No, I don't think they did. I might be misremembering it, but I don't think they did. I think they just planted the tree, said some words, and tossed some dirt. No, it was just the dirt.
Yeah. Chock's performance. I mean, we've seen people leave and come back. We've seen a ring winner do it. Ed did it on Jillian's season. I'll never forget. Oh, he left for like a work event.
Yeah.
But nothing like this. We've seen Michael left for a grandparent's death and came back, but like nothing. Mm-hmm. No one left and came back and did what he did, and with a relationship as close as a person with their mom, and incorporated it into the season as well. Like, it was so stunning. You can't help but root for this man, you know, like,
yeah,
he has seemingly put more invested into the season than anyone else.
Absolutely. I was blown away by what he was able to do, and hats off to him. I hope we get to see a golden wedding coming up in January, if they can force that hand like they did with Gary, or did they learn their lesson?
Get your bag and do it. Why not?
I agree. 100%. Get
and then paid. I think that you get to keep the ring no matter what, right?
If you
there's
get married?
Marriage. Yeah.
I imagine.
Do you still have to last 2 years?
No, I think if you get married, that's it. You're iced. You get to sell that thing. That's $80,000 in the pocket.
Get it, Joan. Get yourself a really nice bed. Our number 6 most important takeaway from Joan Vassos's inaugural season was a Wednesday night disaster. We had the worst ratings of any Bachelor product of all time. And yes, we're including Listen to Your Heart.
Listen to Your Heart was a different time, though. I mean, it is important
Winter Games.
Winter Games dominated it. I mean, up till this point, Listen to Your Heart was the worst rated product Bachelor's ever made. That said, we have to take all of this into account when we talk about ratings. Network television ratings are just dropping off the face of a cliff. Every season, they get across the board worse and worse and worse, as there are fewer and fewer people alive who even know what cable television is, let alone pay money to a company to get that in their home, that service. So
to get that in their home.
So that has something to do with it, certainly. That said, Listen to Your Heart, which was on at the beginning of the pandemic, you had never seen ratings that bad. They were getting like 0.6s roughly on average. Vassos' season is getting 0.26s, 0.27s. Mm-hmm. So it's almost a full third as bad as that. Again, the network TV decline is certainly a part of this, but I think that putting it on Wednesday nights opposite Survivor, which is a giant reality TV juggernaut, they were getting 0.6s basically this season. They were getting what Listen to Your Heart got in 2020, turning back the clock.
Survivor is literally the worst show you could possibly put a Bachelor product opposite, because it is a legacy reality program. They're basically the exact same age. It is the exact same age demographic who is watching both of those shows.
Mm-hmm. It was also on opposite the final game of the World Series, or they preempted a little bit of the show for the World Series in the final game.
And they preempted it with a fucking debate.
No, that was Jen Tran.
Oh.
Wasn't it? Or was it Joan Vassos? I don't even know.
I'm tired of getting preempted.
Me too.
That's my point.
The decision to move a Bachelor product off of Monday night is always bad. You will always see horrible returns in the ratings as a result of it. Except the only thing we can really look at is Gary Turner, who was aired on Thursday nights, his season of Golden Bachelor. And that was actually a ratings success. And in fact, it was the Bachelor in Paradise season 9 that aired immediately after Golden Bachelor season 1 on Thursday nights that did far worse. It dropped off about half from what Gary Turner's lead-in was. So I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I do think that Wednesday night against Survivor was just the worst decision you could have made. And I know ABC had Monday Night Football going on, so they had to not put it on Monday nights. But I think for my money, Bachelor is a Monday night show. We all know that. That's what we build our weeks around. If you're a fan of this,
our lives around it. Yes.
Yeah, you do. If you have like a weekly watch party that you go to, that's the fun thing that you do every Monday. And if it's not on Monday, if it's like in the middle of the week, if you got a job,
you talk with your coworkers about it the next day, like it is appointment television still. And they have to remember that when they're scheduling.
Especially because it's still on network TV. If it is on streaming, none of this matters, but it's not. It is on network TV, it's determined by the success and failure of a show is determined by the ratings still. So you have to give this show the best possible chance to succeed. That is putting it on Monday night. Definitely not on a Wednesday, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, Wednesday night is some people's date nights, and you're making them shuffle their whole lives around.
You got a Wednesday day night?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cute.
Congrats.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Let's
not
move.
Anymore.
No, the season's over. No, the season's over. You can go back to your Wednesday day night. Let's move on to our number 5 most important takeaway from the top 10 list of Joan Vassos' season. We are talking about a man named Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson, of course, is the father of Kelsey Anderson, the Bachelor season 28 ring winner, who is now with Joey Graziadei, the gays player from Hawaii. And Mark Anderson had the best deep run. He didn't make it to hometowns, sadly, but he did have the best deep run from a parental player that we have ever seen in the Golden franchise. We only have one other person to compare this to. That is Matt James' mom, Patty James, who was she night 1?
Unceremoniously dismissed on night 1.
Is that accurate? I'm pulling up my grid. Hang on. That's my computer noise when I pull up my grid. Patty.
I don't like
James.
that noise.
Where is she? Where is she in here? There she is. Patty James, first rose ceremony. Yeah, she was in night 1. I thought maybe she made it to week 2. But obviously Mark Anderson lived far beyond that. Now, you can ask yourself, is that because he had this DILF status from hometowns in Bachelor season 28? I think probably so. Patty James really only had the name recognition. She had been in the show, obviously.
She should have gone the MILF route.
Should have gone the MILF route.
On TikTok.
But the DILF route got him pretty far. He got some very interesting dates. He had, some huge kind of plays. We'll get to one of them in the next segment here. But
his PTC was like one of the most highlighted PTCs of the entire season.
Absolutely. And
he got a creature incorporated into it with the Hummer.
The Hummer. It also is a PTC that has been basically in the game since Joey Graziadei's season. Kelsey Anderson played the same PTC, and then we got to watch him hit it again. And so it just became the story of Kelsey's mom, Mark Anderson's late wife, really has existed for about a year in this franchise at this point. Because you even see it like on
He's
Jen
got more
Tran's
kids.
season.
We could keep this PTC going.
They all somehow go through the Bachelor system. I mean, even when you saw Kelsey Anderson on the Yellow Brick Road one-on-one date with Jen Tran and Marcus Schoberg, also Daisy Kemp was on that. Charity Lawson was on that. Trista Sutter was on that. But even when you see her just brought back, you're kind of reminded of her entire season, which includes that massive PTC. And so I feel like for this whole year, Kelsey's mom, Mark Anderson's wife, was kind of present in the Bachelor franchise and may continue to be. Andersons. It really truly was. But I thought he turned in a pretty good season. He was a little boring for my taste. And I will say this, despite playing so well, I think coming into the season, I would have put him as an odds-on favorite to be the Golden Bachelor. Now I don't think so. I think he was a little too boring.
I think he's definitely in the running. I feel like it's him versus Charles.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, he has just revealed a relationship, so who knows? And
do you think he could come back in as the Golden Bachelor with whoever this woman is that he's in a relationship with and say, we're looking for a third?
Not yet.
Could that be Golden Bachelor season 2?
We're still with leads that look like Gary and Joan clues in the Golden franchise. Like, I think we have a way to go before a throuple.
A golden throuple. That'd be pretty interesting.
We don't even have
just
a
putting
bed
it out
yet
there.
Clues.
Yeah, I know. We go from Joan Vassos not having a bed in fantasy suites to Mark Anderson doing group sex in the fantasy on night 1, not even in the fantasy suites.
Look, I don't think Mark Anderson had a good first audience game, but I do think he had an extraordinary second audience game.
Totally.
Which again, we'll get to. And he, was messing around with the costumes. He was giving people hugs. He was like fully embracing the entire experience. And speaking of that, our number 4 top takeaway from Joan Vassos' season was brotherhood. No villain at all this season. We had essentially a season, a sexless season. The second audience really is what the show ended up being about. We have the highlighting of the song "The Mansion Men." We sing it over and over. We see these scenes of Guy helping Charles with his PTC. We see the Jonathan Mark Anderson post-it play, hoisting Charles up after he did well in kickball after never playing. It had that same charm that the Golden Bachelor season had in terms of like a sisterhood of like everyone getting something out of this experience, like a different type of love. Which I really love and I think should continue.
I agree 100% with that. The closest thing to a villain we had was probably Chock on the bowling group date, where he kind of sequestered Joan Vassos all to himself, had his arm around her and all that. And I remember Pascal got mad at that. He had a few ITMs where he was like, "This guy Chock, take her away. I don't think this is okay." And that was about as close as it got.
Do they not have women in Wichita?
Yeah. Chock don't bowl. Chock takes woman while you bowl. That's kind of what I think.
Charge.
Yeah. Charles Chock in charge. I agree with you, though.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
It's something I've been thinking about watching so much Love Island recently is that Love Island, you kind of do have a first audience game, which is whoever is your romantic target. And then your second audience game is actually more important because they are the ones who vote you off. And being a good friend to people and being an STCO keeps you in the game longer if you're single, and you can get far just like being in friendship couples.
Yeah. And it gets you screen time. We saw that in the season of Golden Bachelor, like the scene between Guy Ganser and Charles L, where they're talking about his wife dying from a stroke and all of that. That was a whole scene unto itself. Or even the dynamic duo kind of antics of Jack and Charles on night 1 that was reprised in the Men Tell All to some degree. Yeah. They got their own segments because of it. And so this idea of in the younger game, the second audience is a kind of two-way street, double-edged sword, however you want to call it. Yes, you are playing against these guys to get the Bachelorette, but you also have to play with them. Here, there's almost no playing against. There are no hard feelings for any of the dates they go on. If you get extra time, great. They pep you up. That, like you're saying, that post-it play
drama reel was about the barbecue.
Yeah, the drama reel exactly was about like how you're going to cook your burgers. That was the big, oh my God, we almost got in a fist fight about that. Not actually. But that post-it play by Mark Anderson was one of the best plays of the season. And it didn't make the main document, which still I'm beside myself about. But that said, that idea that Mark Anderson had to be like, I'm going to wake up early and put post-it notes in Jonathan's coffee mug that are these kind of notes of affirmation and helping him, like pump himself up. It's just such a smart play. And I don't think you would see something like that in younger Bachelor. You would see something like that in Love Island.
I think you should.
Exactly. I would literally
start
steal
doing some
that
affirmation.
idea.
Yeah. You can do that in Bachelor, just like girlify it and be like, it's affirmations. You are beautiful. You are kind. You are wise.
Yeah. I want to see guys in Young Bachelor cooking each other breakfast. I want to see them giving each other massages, doing each other's hair.
Like, think about Rob and James. Like, their friendship kept both of them in.
Wait, what show are you talking about? Yeah, I was like, Rob and James, who? What?
Sorry, Love Island USA season 6.
Yeah. All right. We go back and forth. All the games start to run together at a certain point. But yeah, I just thought that this season was maybe even a step above what Golden Bachelor was in terms of the camaraderie of the player base.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying something.
I agree.
Because we got asking.
Yeah, I know. We had no real formal kind of group made other than like Golden Season Mansion Men, whatever that means. That seems like all of them to me. There wasn't like a what's asking? It's 4 people, a quartet.
April, Susan, Kathy, Nancy.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was our number 3 takeaway clues?
Our number 3 takeaway of these top 10 was also a singular human being. Charles L. We have never seen a player like him, I think, in any version of this game. So innocent, seemingly. So for TRR, seemingly. I believe he is more for TRR than maybe anyone. I don't think he's totally as for TRR as he's letting on. I think some of it is an act, but he's very good at it.
If you're that for TRR.
I agree. He's absolutely hilarious. And again,
we do see him acting about the hair dye.
Yeah, exactly. He dyes
There's evidence
hair.
of acting.
There are elements of acting. The wedding in London where he's jetting off with his daughter to this international wedding and cutting a rug. I think he's not as innocent as he would seem to be, but the persona he's playing. Not
that innocent.
That could be his promo with that song.
Yeah, he's just dancing. Honestly, that's what I would do for his promo. I would just have like his dance. I love his dance.
Me too. But yeah, he was a singular type of player with a strategy that we've never really seen before in our beloved game. And I think it was so strong that it is going to land him with the crown. I think he's going to be the next Golden Bachelor.
He had the largest social media gain in this season of anyone. And I don't know if he ended up... Who ended up winning?
Winning what?
Yeah, because Mark had most of his... Or had like half of his gains from last season.
I got it.
What was our number 2 takeaway? It was no beds Vassos. Joan Vassos said, take the fantasy out of fantasy suites for me. We will have no beds, and this will be a sexless FS, and there won't even be chemistry play in a prone position. No, sir.
This was terrible.
And we didn't, because of this, we were robbed of the morning after little fantasy suite scene, which I really like those scenes.
I do too.
They're very telling. They're very interesting what they choose to put in them. I'll never forget the forklift by Joey and Kelsey Anderson.
Yeah.
The forklift heard around the nation.
Yep. I mean, I don't know why. I guess I know why she did this. I just don't agree with it. I think it was a very bad move. Even if you're not going to have sex in the fantasy suites, which is fine, perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the choice that all leads get to make. But to say prior to the fantasy suite, I'm taking the beds out and this isn't what that's about, is like, let us have our fantasy. Let us wonder what happened behind closed door, Joan. Don't immediately take away that possibility, because then the producers also have nothing to play with. There can be no insinuations in the edit. There can be no what we call confirmation of consummation or consummation confirmation. That shot of hanging a do not disturb sign on the door or the lights going out in the window or whatever that implies sex is happening. And we know producers have done that.
For me, it takes away the 4TRR because I'm like, you're losing 10 hours with this person. which is like half the relationship.
No, they still
in
do.
Total hours.
They'll spend the night together, just talking.
I thought they didn't.
Did
Where
they
are
not?
they sleeping if there's no beds?
I don't know. I mean, did they really take the beds out, or was that just something she said?
I don't know.
We don't know, but we know there was no sex had, and we know that there were no morning after packages put together.
Why wouldn't they have a morning after if they still stayed in the same room?
I'm not sure. I mean, we talked about this when we recap Fantasy Suites. It's some choice she made. She was deciding, like, I don't want my kids and grandkids to see that. She had something that she didn't want the image of her having just had sex or about to have sex in this TV show. And again, that's fine, but you have to, in my opinion, you have to allow the audience to wonder if it happened or not. That's part of this entire game. To completely knock it out
Could there have been a sloppy HJ? Could there have been a sloppy Hummer?
Why does it have to be sloppy?
Why can't we wonder? Just because of that, there was some rumor about some sloppy fantasy suite play in someone's season. You don't remember this?
Yes, I do remember this.
Like,
I do remember this. And also, what about Claire Crawley in the sea with
we love to wonder.
Juan Pablo?
I mean, even we've had virgins do fantasy suites and say they're not going to hook up with anyone, and still it's more sexy than this was. We had Shauna, we had Colton Underwood. I want to say even Emily Maynard, who I don't think they even went in the room. It was somehow more romantic.
It was very, very platonic this season. And it just becomes hard to buy into the romance element of this. It seems like when she's saying yes to Chock's proposal, it's just like, oh, we'll be good friends and hang out. There didn't seem to be a lot of chemistry anywhere in this season, in my opinion.
No. But maybe between some of the guys. Speaking of lack of chemistry, unfortunately, our number one takeaway that currently we believe we will remember the season for is the restraining orders. We had two players. One had a prior restraining order situation. I'm not sure exactly what the terms are for these, who was a guy who made it all the way to second place. And then one had one that happened, I guess, after filming or later on in the process. And that was Gil, who didn't make it that far, but made it a few weeks. And the show chose to ignore both situations, just like they did with Jen Tran's season, with both of her, both her ring winner and her runner-up. And it seems like they are going to be doing this going forward. And it seems like they have casting problems on every level. And it makes the season incredibly difficult to watch.
Absolutely correct. And there are some people who are not aware of this. There are some people who just tune into the show and they don't go online. They don't read anything else about any of these players. I think that's a shrinking percentage of the audience. I think the vast majority of this audience at least is aware of the Reddit or what's going around on the internet. And not only does it make it hard to watch, it makes it hard to cast. Because if you're a person thinking about going into this franchise and you've now seen 2 back-to-back seasons where the finalists have restraining orders against them and are problematic in some way.
People who are doing fantasy suites, like,
yeah, you don't want to be in a show like that.
Unsafe.
It's definitely hurting the franchise, and their way of handling it, like you're saying, PaceCase, is to ignore it. They mentioned none of this. And there's some information coming out now, at least conjecture online, that the producers knew about Guy Gansert's restraining order situation and cast him anyway. That's not a good sign. Now, I know Guy Gansert. And I'm
just like, why? Why?
Exactly. Why?
It's not yeah.
I don't pass like moral judgment on any of these guys in any way. I don't know the situations they were in.
We don't know.
The Guy Gansert thing, the restraining order was never granted or it was revoked by the ex-wife or something. I'm not saying that these are bad guys necessarily. I'm not saying they're good guys. I'm saying the facts are this. They had restraining order issues in their past, some of them in their immediate past, and they were still cast in this show. If the product you're making is a fantasy about the most eligible people from whatever the demographic is, in this case, older gentlemen in their 60s, if that's the idea that we're going to find the best 60-year-old guys in the country for you to find love with, and you put 2 of them in there who have restraining order stuff, you've broken the premise of the show. So the product is a lie. And it becomes harder to buy into the entire fantasy of the entire show. I just don't know why they keep doing it. And the fact that they now are ignoring it after that big LA Times article came out before Jen Tran's season aired, where Bennett Graebner and Claire Freeland, 2 of the showrunners, came out and said, like, we're going to do better and have our players' backs. And then it's just boom, boom, back-to-back seasons with finalists with restraining orders. Why? Why do you cast these guys? Just don't put them in the show. If you find out anything even remotely questionable, they're gone. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how it has to be.
I refuse to believe that you can't cast an entire season without a questionable background. I refuse to believe it. And we're seeing it on other shows all the time. Other franchises are able to do this. Yeah, which ones?
Love Island? Love is Blind definitely had some, not restraining order stuff, but this past season they had some questionable shit going down with Tyler Francis and his imaginary children or whatever.
I like, even that to me though, it's like you're not putting that person in an unsafe situation. Like, oh wait, maybe that one wasn't it? God.
What's that?
There's just no, I was like, oh, but there was a domestic situation with that one too, right?
That I don't know.
I refuse to believe that you can't protect your leads, and like your lead should be America's sweetheart, Jen Tran. This is who we want to root for to find love. We're going to cast all of these people that are cast for her and are the best possible suitors for her. And then you're doing this. They're all 2/3 are clearly unsafe choices to be having in the fantasy suites, or dating in the season. And then you're going to put it on camera, them forcing her to watch this thing.
And then ignore
we don't want to watch our leads treated like this.
Not only do we not want to watch the leads treated like this, we want to believe that these shows truly do have the best interest in mind, at least of the lead, if not the entire player base. And if you're constantly casting people with restraining order problems, we have to start to ask ourselves as an audience, what's going on here? Did you know about this and cast them anyway? Or did you not know at all? They're claiming they didn't know at all. Just ineptitude, just very bad at the job. If that's the case, you have to get better at the job. I don't think that's the case. I think of the 4 guys that had restraining order or super problematic accusations in the past. They knew of at least one and didn't care and put them in the show. Because otherwise, why wouldn't they address
otherwise
it?
It's 4 people that you just didn't catch.
Yeah, exactly. And how is that possible? And why are you not addressing it?
And if it's, exactly. Oh, we didn't catch it. Oh, that's an accident. 4 people got in there. Apologize.
Yeah. They've completely ignored these past 2 seasons.
And change your system. Orders. Fix those loopholes.
See, this is my take on it is this. And again, this is my take from having studied this document at a level probably no one else in the world has. My take is this. They knew about Devin Strader's background and they put him in the show to be that season's villain. He wound up winning and it backfired on them. There is still a contingent of producers on this show who comes from that old school, early second wave, early 2000s, where it's Jerry Springer. We want to see people fighting and crying and fucking and dying. And they cast people specifically to that end. Then it turns out that person's really good at playing the game of The Bachelor and he wins the whole season. Now you've got this mess on your hands, but they don't ever acknowledge it. They just move on to the next. And the audience is getting tired of it. You look at Joan Vassos' ratings, you know, we talked about the Wednesday night thing being part of it, and it was for sure. But I think a lot of people after that Jen Tran, after the final rose, were like, and I know this to be true because I got DMs to this event, to this effect. Yeah. They were like, fuck it, I'm done with Bachelor. They've gone too far. You can see the maliciousness of the producers.
And these are people that held on through so much.
Yeah, all
decades.
the bubble seasons. Exactly. And so they've got a big problem here. Is it going to be fixed? We probably won't know that until the next season of Bachelorette, which we don't know who that's going to be. It'll be somebody out of Grant Ellis's season, I would guess. And we'll see. We'll see, who that crop of guys is that comes into that next season of Bachelorette. And at this point, finding this stuff out, I mean, you've got like story time with Ricky, what she was doing with Tyler Francis on Love is Blind, getting court documents and stuff, what Reality Steve did with the Devin Strader restraining order. Like, the machine is now in place to do deep background checks on all of these guys as soon as their names are mentioned, and it will be done. So if they mess up again, or they purposely put somebody in with a problematic past, we're going to find out immediately now.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what the perfect solution is. I assume there are ways to do more in-depth background checks than they are currently doing. But yeah, it's really, it's even you and I, like, who are super, super Bachelor fans, I would say more than a lot of people.
Sure.
It has been grating on us.
Yeah. It's tough because you just don't. There's the premise of the show, which we know is a lie, about like helping you find love. The producers don't care about that. They care about turning in a 10 to 12 episode order to ABC that gets the proper ratings so that they can have a job the next year. That is all the producers care about. But the audience doesn't care about that. The audience cares about an entertaining season that doesn't have guys in there that cause you to feel some type of grotesque way when you have to watch Joan Vassos kissing Guy Ganser. Again, I'm not saying he's a bad guy or anything.
The women of America already experience grotesque men every day, all the time, and even when they're dating. They want to. This is for fantasy.
Exactly. We want to escape our daily lives. And if the place we're escaping has dudes with restraining orders and domestic violence allegations and secret children that are openly lying to people, if those are the places we're escaping to, we're not going to keep going there. We can just stay in our own lives, wallow in our own misery,
I got puzzling I could be doing.
I rest my case, Your Honor. Got some active puzzling. At any rate, hopefully they'll clean this up in our beloved game.
Yeah, hopefully it's a dark moment. Our runner-up for this list was that we had our corporate daddy Disney incorporated a lot this season in both the Disney Chock Joan date, where they were running around doing all these Disney ads, and then they rehashed it when they gave them the Disney. That was their gift that they gave them, is you go to Disney and you put on the try to get them to put on the ears and stuff.
Made Boomer very happy. Remember Boomer?
The child?
Sweet Boomer. Yeah. Did you ever know a Boomer growing up?
I knew 3 golden retrievers named Boomer.
I knew one guy named Boomer. He was a guy I played football with in junior high. His nickname was Boomer, which I think was given to him by himself, for what it's worth. And there was Boomer Esiason, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback in the late 80s.
Of course. Clues, what are your, let's do our season awards.
Yes, our season awards. Please begin.
Okay, our first season award is Jorge Moreno Bystander of the Season. Who you got?
For me, it was hands down the shaman who led Pascal and Joan in their spiritual bonding ceremony that ultimately led Pascal to realize, I got to get the fuck out of here. I just loved the ceremony. Pascal got to speak French. That whole ceremony was great. It was fantastic. Joan got to tell us how she hates the odd fruit bread.
Chock, odd fruit bread. We all loved it.
And it was all facilitated by this spirit guide. So thank you for your service. PaceCase, who was your Jorge Moreno Bystander of the Season?
Another huge memorable moment from the season for me. My Bystander of the Season the Golden Chippendales dancers were my Bystander of the Season.
Nice.
I couldn't believe they were doing a forced nudity day. I couldn't believe it was literally a strip show and that there were golden Chippendales to begin with. I loved it. I thought it, it went kind of with the theme of just like, you can be sexy at any age.
Yeah, I totally agree. They were great. I mean, there were some pretty good bystanders overall this season, I think. But yeah, maybe you're right. I would change my answer maybe, but I've already given it. I think you're correct.
Dang.
The Golden Chippendales dancers.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I like yours too.
Who was your creature of the season?
Mark Anderson's Hummer was my creature of the season. The hummingbird, related to Mark Anderson's PTC, I thought was one of the greatest plays of the season. He then goes and tells the second audience about it. He tells the first audience about it, and like signifying that its appearance is like his mid-season story change, his story arc, that he can like get past his PTC was I loved it. And we had heard about,
I agree.
Kelsey's butterfly already. So it's kind of a generational creature.
It confused me a little bit. Was the deceased wife, deceased mother, a hummingbird, a butterfly? Do you get both? Can
it's
she
going
be all
to each
animals?
of them differently, you see.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize. Well, leading into that, my creature of the season was also a returned relative in animal form. It was Joan's hawk or falcon or whatever she said, that John returns to her as a hawk. And we got to see, I guess, a couple of those this season, although I was reprimanded. I was corrected in my DMs saying that bird was actually a vulture and not a hawk.
You can't open your DMs. You're going to get reprimanded. I really thought it was a hawk. Doesn't Joan says it's a hawk?
She does, but I think she was mistaken too.
John would never be a vulture.
John would never become a vulture.
This is a mini screen for me that this reminds me of is there's often, well, now I don't know, but there's a hawk that comes above the dog park that I go to all the time, and it makes literally the sound of the goosed up sound that they put in Bachelor. I swear to God, it's the same
Better
one.
keep those chihuahuas held tight.
Ow! That's like the sound.
All right, let's move on to the face play of the season. Who you got?
Caitlin Bristow, the one true GOAT's open mouth face play at Gary's Chippendales dance was my face play of the season.
That was a good one.
She made a ton. She made it, she packs a powerful punch into the one episode she's in.
Yeah, I agree. Mine was a little different. Joan's son, it was subtle. Joan's son recoiling when Chock forced a kiss on his mother 2 feet away, and even said, and I made her do this when we went to my hometown as well. Chock, when he come into a room, Chock gonna put a kiss on the woman that's on his arm, let everybody know what's going down. So Joan and Joan's son, watch what happens here. Joan, give me this kiss. And the son, they cut to him and he just kind of is like, ugh, just a recoiling look of minor disgust. And they chose to keep that in the edit. Thank you for your service. I loved it very much.
I loved this face play. That was up there for me.
Yeah,
and it was also up there for me in errors of the season. It was such a strange move.
God, me too. Speaking of errors of the season, PaceCase, what is your error of the season?
Unfortunately for Chock, he didn't get this award from me. My Pascal's self-elimination, you're unlovable, Joan, was my error of the season.
That would have been hilarious. Joan, not only can I not love you, I don't think anyone can. Goodbye. He didn't do that.
I can love you. You're above 60 years old. I only date younger.
This, by the way, was also my error of the season, Pascal's self-elimination. But then he just compounded it by doing that interview where he said if he was the Golden Bachelor, they'd have to lower the age. It's like that defeats the point, dude. I don't think you know what this show is.
Why ever say that?
Because he was being honest. I think that's legit for him.
I think he is being honest, but
yeah.
Even if that is your demand, you keep that locked up with the third audience. Like when Brad Womack, I believe the all white season, his first Bachelor season, I think that was his request. I want to say.
Damn. You know what Pascal should do if he gets to be Golden Bachelor? He should make everybody, or like pay very close attention to when the kids, the women's children, are sending the videos, and be like, start picking out the 25-year-old daughters. Like, that's going to be a hometown. That's going to be a hometown. And then he shows up there and he's like, instead of forcing the kiss on the mom, he forces the kiss on the daughter. And now I must make everyone watch as I do this. He starts dating from their families. Make sure you have a big family reunion.
We notch down generations.
Invite all your nieces. Invite all your cousins. I need to see the whole family to know what I'm getting into.
I'm sorry, Pascal. I loved Pascal's play this whole season.
I did too. He was a great player. Great player. I take nothing away from him. He's very entertaining.
But error of the season. What was your play of the season?
There were a bunch of really good ones this season. Chock had most of them. And so it's probably no surprise that my play of the season was Chock's tree. This was, I just have never seen anything like it. He had to have organized this whole thing. The producers, when they go do hometowns, they show up with cameras. They might help you organize, like if you want to go to a bowling alley or something in the town, like who was it that made Pilot Pete throw the axes? Hannah Sluss. That is something the producers will help you set up if it's like a local establishment that you're going to go to. This thing with Chock, where there seemingly were 200 people, closest friends and family, out on this ranch of his friend, planting a tree in memoriam of his recently departed mother. It was just unbelievable. I've never seen that much work put into a hometown with that kind of a big symbolic gesture. It was just beautifully done. And I think it was part of why Joan,
the dad of that
was iced for him.
Late partner.
Yeah, exactly. That for me was play of the game. How about you?
No surprise here. Mine also goes to Chock, but mine was slightly different. My play of the season was Chock's return to Joan Vassos after the mid-season passing away of the mother. I've never seen, it's like beyond a sabbatical, where like someone is like taking off their job. Like I don't know how close he was with his mother. It seems close. And it seems like he only went home for a couple days. Like, and look at that big family he has, 500,000 people who he's got to take care of their emotions. So it was really powerful for me. I think it got him the ring winner win. Too. And then, that whole hometown was completely unbelievable. But loved it.
Well, that leads us to our MVP of the season, PaceCase. This is no surprise. I think we probably both have the same one. Who was your MVP?
Yeah. Chock was my MVP.
Yeah.
Just, I underestimated him at the beginning. Like, I did not see it coming. And Chock was in charge this whole season. It was all about Chock. It was all about, is he coming back? His mother, the hometown. He's the one who's too handsy at the bowling. Like, he's just in the mix the whole time. He was the star.
Chock was also my MVP. There was just no one playing at his level. I would say Pascal was kind of coming close until the disastrous self-elimination. He could have turned that around in the self-elimination and said, I am closed off, but I realize if I need to find love again, I must open up. And Joan, I have done that with you. Because of you, I am starting to fall in love for the first time in 65 years. He could have done that, but he didn't do that. Chock, though, was unrelenting. It was just a head down, nose to the grindstone, pound this out no matter what. Come back after my mom dies. do this big group date, be all over you at the bowling date, make every time I'm in an episode, make the whole episode about me. Chock was really the whole season to me. I mean, I think he played better than Joan did.
I'm crazy about this woman that was 4 TRR.
Got a whole
100% he played better than Joan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're going to see in terms of his numbers. Like Charles Ling was actually the other one who I was considering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got kicked off too early, I would say, but for his screen time, I feel like he did the most out of anyone except for Chock. Yeah, great cast. Other than the two, you know, obviously. The ones.
Yeah. Other than the restraining order, other than the 50% of your finalists having restraining order problems. Great cast. But that wraps it up. Those are our top 10 takeaways and all of our season-long awards. We hope you have enjoyed our coverage of this inaugural season of Golden Bachelorette. We, of course, are going to be covering Grant Ellis' season, which starts on January 27th. Next season, we are going to be covering Special Forces World's Toughest Test, which has Trista Sutter in it. And
that trailer gave me chills. I was the closest I've ever been to watching that show.
I'm going to watch all of it in Clues Corner as I did the last season. The first 2 seasons of the show, by the way, have had in their championship ranks Bachelor players. Every Bachelor player who's come into it has won the game. So we're going to see if our 2 Bachelorettes can live up to that hype. We then also have Traders starting January 9th. I'm going to be covering that in Clues Corner season 3. Ooh. We've got Gabby, Wendy, and Wells Adams from the Bachelor franchise are going to be going head to head in that. And then we've got Grant's season on January 27th. Then we've got Love is Blind season 8 on February 14th. The beginning of 2025 is going to be wild. We hope you'll stick around for all that.
Gore 2025, it's going to be even better than 2020 Gore, I think.
There's going to be a lot in it, that's for sure.
Ugh, that Grant trailer. I can't stop thinking about it. Well, join us. We have a lot of really good interviews coming up too, including a Thanksgiving special.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Praise be Dark Lord Palmer.
Please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us. And then please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast.